The views and opinions shared on Tumble Dry Pod are just that, views and Mo's opinions. They are not facts. They are not prescriptive advice. Honey, they are not gospel. I mean, unless it's the gospel of Mo. No, just kidding. It's not gospel, right? Just one work besties take from the low heat setting of leading in life. We're not lawyers, doctors, therapists, or HR reps, unless we bring them on. And even then, it is still just a conversation. All stories are either fictional, anonymized, or told with love and lessons in mind. I repeat, if it sounds like you, your boss, your job, or whatever, that's between you and your dryer. With love and always, y'all, Mo. Welcome back to the pod, y'all. It's your girl, Monique LaShawn. I am here. Yes, it's me, your work bestie, Mo. We are here for yet another laundry day for your leadership. So the pod for me is really an opportunity for me to really amplify your voices. I want folks to understand what your workplace experiences are. I want people to know that, yes, you are performing, but I need them to know that you're also being burned out along the way. I need them to understand that when it comes to how we show up in our dryers, right? How we show up at work, care must be applied always. The reason that this pod is here is because, business aside, the business is my besties. And my besties need the best care that they can get. And sometimes it feels like when we're inside of the dryer, no one hears us. So, y'all, I have created my own dryer. I have stepped outside of the dryer to make sure that these other folks know, hey, you're not doing it right. Hey, you're not treating them right. Hey, that's a delicate cycle. You have it on high heat, right? And so I'm here to make sure that I am standing in solidarity with y'all. I am locked in with y'all. And as they say, ride or die, I am riding with y'all. We're not trying to die. Okay. That's where I kind of draw the line, right? You feel what I mean? So one of the things that I want to say is, obviously, I'm so grateful for all my subscribers. Y'all, my subscribers have doubled. And by double, I mean the last time I looked, I was at 14. All I want to say is thank you so much for your liking and subscribing and resharing, this channel. I want it to be something that you see and find as meaningful. And again, if you happen to be listening and joining from Apple, Spotify, you name it, I want to make sure that this message is one that you're like, yes, Monique, that is my story. Or this sounds very close to my story. Monique, I feel seen by the things that you're saying. Monique, I feel that you value me, right? Monique, you are my work bestie. I mean, I have 3 others, but I'm adding you to my work bestie group because I feel like you understand my experience and where I'm coming from. And I see that you're here to advocate for me in ways that you know how. And y'all, this is one of the best ways that I know how. So let's get into today's spin cycle. So there are 3 things that I want to shake out in terms of during the spin cycle for your leadership. My emphasis is often on first generation professionals. Hey, that's me. And also recovering or reformed high heat leaders, high heat managers, right? Because I am a recovering or a reformed high heat manager, right? There was ways and days where I was showing up and not as my best self, right? And as a result of doing a lot of self work, a lot of reflection, as a result of being really honestly poured into by low heat managers, I learned that there is a very effective way to lead where you don't have to leave people behind, where you don't have to run over people. There's a way to lead in which you are no better than me and I am no better than you, right? The way that I navigate communities really comes from partly, and a lot of it is how I grew up, right? My hometown, coming from a small town, like way my mom and my family was, like it was sort of all in. And honestly, titles didn't matter. What mattered was your integrity and your character. Like, I don't care what your title was. Now, I'm going to be clear. I was raised in the church, so there's a lot of deference involved. But also, I was shepherded by a pastor that was like, that treated me like his grandchild, right? That welcomed me in, like literally. I can say shout out. He's passed now. Because of his leadership, he showed me what genuine care and love was, and also I was able to recognize that from my own family practices, but also in the workplace, right? I mean, there were times where he would give his last or go into his surplus and his abundance to make sure that we were blessed. And those are the kind of practices that I bring with me in all that I do, right? I want to make sure, and oftentimes I am often given even when it's not my abundance, right? I'm giving from a place of honestly scarcity. I'm giving from a place of limited resources. But I know that give and they'll give it back to you. There's a church song, give and I'll give it back to you. I hope my microphone is not catching all of the crackling of the voice that I felt just now. But y'all, singing is not my ministry. It's not, but I do love music. So let's move forward, okay? 3 things today that I want to shake out. The first practice that we have to do, y'all, these are high heat practices that I just do not support, okay? One is we have to stop repeating high heat practices. Yes, just a general statement. Stop repeating high heat practices. Well, Monique, how do you know if it's high heat? Listen, if it was so hot that it took your wrinkles out and then left a scar, it was too high heat. If it was so harmful that you still tell the story about that supervisor 10 years later about how bad of a supervisor they was or how harmful they were to you, it probably was high heat, right? If you can see that person and not be able to go up to them and say, hey, how are you? Because you are still harmed by their memory, it's probably high heat. And so all I'm saying is that there were ways in which we were shepherded in the workplace. There may be ways in which we were even raised by our parents that are still not okay, or things that work for us, and maybe we still were resilient through all of that, but it does not mean that we have to repeat all of that, right? Resiliency does not mean repeat. The second is I need us to really let go of, and I'm going to say this for myself, but I need us to let go of survivor's guilt. It is the guilt that we feel because we made it and someone else did it, right? The best way I can think about that in terms of clothes is when I go to the store, and I just went to Walmart with my mom when I was home not too long ago, and bought this really cute two-piece outfit, and it was a crop top with this long skirt. And don't y'all know that I love that? And I love a good two-piece set. I also love a good one-piece set. Anything that just makes me not have to find the clothes and pair it and match it. Have y'all ever snagged something on your two-piece? So let's say you snag the skirt, or you snag the shorts, or you snag the shirt, or you ruined it with because I like to cook with a lot of curry now. You couldn't get that curry stain out. Now some of y'all may be thinking right now, I'm gonna drop this in the comments for you because I know how to get stains, curry stains out of clothing. Now, if that's you, because you're my bestie, drop that in the comment and let me know how to do it. Just drop the link, okay? Now we're gonna move forward. So again, you have the two-piece set, and perhaps you um ruined one of those pieces. Well, now y'all, you only get to wear one of the pieces, and it feels weird, right? There's some sort of guilt of like, man, I wish I would have, or how come I didn't, and all of that. And you can't really fully enjoy or even engage with that other piece because all you're thinking about is the other piece that's missing. And y'all, to the point sometimes, and this is just me because y'all know I am a recovering shopaholic. But y'all, it could be to the point where you don't even wear that piece, the surviving piece, because you have the guilt of the one that didn't make it. And so that's one of the practices that I want us to let go of. Now, again, if you are a first gen professional, if you are a high heat manager, you're going to have to learn these things because in order to lead with care, in order to treat ourselves with care, to show up with care, we have to be aware of the behaviors and or practices that are high heat that are not care centered. Okay. And the third one is we have to stop succumbing to imposter syndrome. I'm going to repeat that for you. We, self included, have to stop succumbing to imposter syndrome. Oftentimes we feel like, do I belong here? I don't know if I belong. Like, yes, I'm a first gen college student. And yes, I went ahead and I got another degree. And yes, I did apply for this job and I filled out this assessment and I was selected. And it was a very rigorous process. And yes, I was the top of my class. And yes, yes, yes. But now that I'm here, I don't know if I belong. I don't know if they want me here. I don't know if I earned it. You did. You did. You earned it. You did. Right. And so I want you to be able to walk in your greatness and not allow the questions that come up in your head to limit you from ongoing or pursuing even more greatness. And so we have to stop that. Right. So those three practices today, those three high heat practices that we're going to stop today will include repeating any high heat harmful practices. It's going to include any of the sort of holding on to what I'm calling survivor's guilt. And it's also going to include no longer succumbing to imposter syndrome, right? Each of y'all belong here. Each of you made it there. Each of you earned your space. I don't care if it was given to you. You did the part to keep it. You worked hard to maintain it. You elevated it, right? There's this quote that maybe y'all know. I think it was probably made more famous by Jay-Z, but it was originally said by Cleo Fields. Jay-Z's songs, he said that Rosa sat so Martin could walk. Martin walked so that Barack could run, and Barack ran so that our kids could fly. Now, y'all, if that ain't a mic drop moment, I don't know what is. I don't have sound effects, but if I did, I would say that. Okay, it just felt right for me. Pretty much what I wanted y'all to kind of take away from that particular line is that was showing progress. That was showing evolution. That was not showing a repeated cycle. And when I talk about this idea of ending repeated harmful high heat practices, we have to be able to distinguish what are those practices that are low heat that should be repeated and enhanced, and what are those practices that we've just done because that's how we've always done it. If we keep that Jay-Z line in mind, what this should be saying is that I am an improved version. So let me break it down in layman's terms. What my grandmother did in her parenting practices, my mother decided I'm going to keep some of this and I'm going to throw some of it away. And then what I am doing as a non-parent in my, I'm going to call it auntie practices, is there are some things that my mother did that I'm going to keep and some I'm going to throw away. And when I'm blessed to have kids, there'll be some things I keep and some I will throw away, and so on and so forth. And my kids should do the same. So what I'm talking about is progress, and I'm talking about growth. I am not talking about repeating harmful generational cycles on the family side. And so if we can take that perspective and look at it on the work side, I am also not talking about, well, my supervisor did this and that supervisor did that, so I'm just going to do it because that's just how we do it here. Right? That's just the way it is. Excuse me? So what you're really speaking about is culture. And so I don't like that. I don't like repeating something for the simple fact that somebody else did it. I am fully the person that's like, excuse me, why are we doing that? When did that start? Oh, that's just how it's always been. Do you know that I've worked in workplaces and someone who's been there 10, 15 years has said that's how it's always been? But then I'll meet someone that I talk to that's been there for 20 years that can say, oh, no, girl, it's not been like that. So this person came in, and when they came in, they decided X and it became that. And all of a sudden, anybody that came in after that 20-year mark or after that X was decided, that became what felt like how it is. And over time, when no one decided to change that, it became how it always is. So when I come in my new excited to be here, love everybody moment, and I'm the newer employee, and I come up against something that I find is a harmful or a high heat practice, and I'm like, why are we doing that? And someone says, oh, that's because that's just how we do it. What do you mean? Oh, that's literally how it is. And y'all, literally in some cases, I have looked and there have been harmful policies that have been in place for years that no one thought, let me interrupt that, let me rewrite that, let me just cut it out completely because that's how it always has been. And so again, that type of style is complacency. And y'all know in this pod, we have no room for it. Okay. In my dryer, there is no room for it, and it should be no room for it in yours. Now, some of the things that I'm inspired by are music lines. It could be poetry. It could be things from some of our favorite artists. And so here's two that stand out to me that I love. And I thought, oh, wow, this is so dope. And even there's a lot of imagery even around the poem that Tupac wrote. And it was talking about this idea of the rose that grew out of concrete. I mean, even Teyana Taylor remixed it, and she had a song like, a rose in Harlem, grew out of the concrete. Hey, turn up. Just kidding. The point is that the kidding is that I can't sing, but that is how the lyrics go, something like that. Roses don't typically grow out of concrete. And what was being communicated or conveyed both from Tupac and also Tiana was the idea that my environment should have hindered me. My environment should have stopped me, but it did not. I grew. I grew beautifully. I sprouted. I opened up. I'm this amazing thing despite, right? Despite. And then there's another one, a phrase that I often hear, get it out the mud, or I got it out the mud, right? And what it's simply saying is, I made it through the struggle, right? Maybe your struggle was poverty, maybe your struggle was violence, whatever it is, it's saying, despite my environment, I made it out. And while that can be a call of empowerment, a call of action, a call of like, yes, right? Because when I hear certain songs and they have any line like that in it, I'm linked in, I'm hooked, right? I'm with it. When I hear that, I feel like you're darn right, and look at that, the corny side. This is that small town coming out, y'all. You can tell that my town was predominantly white and black, and so sometimes you'll be like, anyways, let's move forward. But yes, when I hear those, it resonates with me because it is to me a mirror. It's a chance for me to see myself in someone whose story sounds close to mine, even if it was totally different. I see myself in that person's story. And so, whether you got it out the mud or whether you are that rose in concrete, what I want to really kind of point out and make clear is in workplaces, that shouldn't be the case. In workplaces, the workplace should not be so hard or so rough that you have to be the only rose that made it out. In dryers, if you will, in workplaces, it shouldn't be to the point where it's so muddy and so murky that somebody had to get themselves out, right? What is the whole point of a washer and a dryer? What's the whole point of a spin cycle if people still have to put in so much labor and effort? And so I really want to make sure that as much as we can, big ourselves up if that is our story, as much as we can connect to that and just see a lot of joy in that and see a lot of resilience and grit and like, man, that person just went through a lot of adversity and they grew. I mean, that's probably why we love the Tupacs and we love the Jay-Z's and we love the Tayanas, right? Y'all love the Moniques, y'all love the Mo's. We love the besties, right? The work besties, because we see that despite everything, they still made it, right? And that despite the struggle that they're currently going through, that they're still resilient. And so, to my besties that are listening and watching this, I see you, I value you, I know that you are going to be better tomorrow than you are in this moment. I know that this moment is not going to stop you because you are the rose and you are the person that got out of the mud. But honestly, y'all, I'm here to make sure that your dryers, your workplaces get it together so that the next person doesn't have to. So if Rosa sat, so Martin could walk. If Martin walked, so that Barack could run. If Barack ran, so that our kids can fly. Why are we repeating cycles where everybody feels like their story is, I had to get out the mud. I had to be the rose in the concrete, right? That's the part that I need y'all to disrupt, interrupt, and move forward in. And so when I talk about these things, right, this sort of idea of harmful high heat practices, repeating those, when I talk about this idea of really not allowing survivor's guilt to consume us and to stop us and to limit us, it's important because sometimes the messages that we're receiving from our workplace is you should work this hard. It should be this difficult, right? It was hard for me, so it should be hard for you. No. We believe in iterating and innovating, and we believe in moving forward, and we believe in being better than the last. And if y'all don't have that mindset, then why are you here? I mean, I'm just kidding. Hopefully, you're here to learn how to adapt that mindset. But I really am making sure that you're not just someone in the workplace holding standards that weren't even yours, that are archaic, that are harmful, just for the sake of saying, well, that's because that's how we've always done it. Or, well, my mom did this, and so I'm doing it. No, no, no. Monique is going to be a better version of her mother. And y'all have a dope mom. Okay. My mom is amazing. And she did so many wonderful things that, like, I love her so deeply. And I still can improve on that. I want to bring the third one up for y'all. And that one is succumbing to imposter syndrome. This is really connected to even all of the examples that I just shared with y'all, because one of the things that I think is important to think about is if you are that rose in the concrete, you will feel like an imposter. That rose probably looked around and was like, oh, why am I here? Where is my family? Because roses move in bushels, y'all. Now, listen, I'm not the green thumb of it all, but roses usually come in a bunch, okay? My grandmother had rose bushes, right? And so, why am I seeing one rose in a concrete? Now, as beautiful of a moment that is for a photographer or a videographer or someone walking by, or as beautiful of a moment as that is to think about metaphorically, how isolating that is as well, right? How isolating could it be for that rose? What does it mean for the person that finally got out of the mud? What trauma did they go through to get out of that? Right? A lot of that trauma and a lot of that isolating experience really caused them to become and be their best. But my goodness, why did they have to go through that? And so when I talk about leading from a care-centered perspective and being a recovering high heat manager and being someone that, as a first gen professional, I am super grateful that I will be able to extend my legacy so that the next person that comes after me won't have to go through the struggle that I went through in college, won't have to navigate workplaces without the knowledge and the know-how, won't have to have an internal mentor to guide them because there's no one in their family who can. Not because their family is not great and awesome, because I know my family is. I know your family is. But because sometimes when someone hasn't had an experience, it's hard for them to be a teacher. And that if I haven't had that experience, you were once teacher, I was once student, but now the roles have flipped where I'm teacher and you're a student, and this is different. And I don't know how to navigate that. Right. And so I just want us to be mindful of that. Let me jump into this idea of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the internalized belief that you're not as competent as others, right? Even though and even when there's plenty of evidence that would say that you are. I mean, again, first gen, college student, competent, first gen professional, competent, resilient person, competent, apply for the job, competent, had the best interview, best presentation, was the highest on the assessment, competent, 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 right? Even when all of the evidence indicates that you are competent and that you deserve to be there could still be something happening within your mindset or your perspective where you feel like maybe I don't belong here, right? And so what that could look like if you're like, I don't think that's me, and it may not be, but maybe you know folks that are like this. I'll speak from my own perspective. That could look like downplaying your ideas or not taking credit, letting other people take credit for your ideas because maybe you're afraid to say, okay, yeah, I did create that, or I did have that idea, or I did do that first. It could be not being comfortable accepting compliments, right? Oh, you did such a great job. Oh, no, 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 I didn't, right? Somebody then came and complimented you because you did a dope job, and you're like, no, 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 no. Now that's not just being humble and meek. It may be because you felt like it wasn't up to whatever standard that you thought was the standard, right? And so those are just some ways in which you may notice imposter syndrome show up. But I need y'all to know that imposter syndrome is real, especially for first gen professionals. And it's also something that a lot of high heat managers. So when you feel like you're an imposter, you start to work harder. You start to do more. You start to stay longer. You start to over work things because you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. But you just spent 10 hours on something that should have just took 2. And then you didn't presented it. And now you're stressed and overwhelmed because you couldn't manage your time well, or you manage your time just fine, but you put all that labor in and all they needed was just the 2 hours of work, right? And you put 10 hours in. So an extra 8 hours, you're sort of overdoing it to compensate for something that you don't need to compensate for, right? If no one ever told y'all you are the je ne sais quoi, you are amazing, you are great, your good is good enough, right? And the thing that I've been telling myself lately is, Monique, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect because recognizing that I'm working through some of the harmful narratives that I have adapted and sort of say with me, I have to interrupt that, right? Do I deserve to be in this space? Do I deserve to have my voice out there? Will people value me? Do they see, like, am I contributing the way that they expect? Like, who cares? I am contributing my best. Your worst is their best. Now, this may not be true for all y'all. Some of y'all need to put some more work in. However, most of the time, and often you'll find that to be the case. You'll come in and somebody say, oh, bro, I just did this 10 minutes ago. Or I didn't even put all this in. And you're like, hold on, wait a second. Right? I used my whole weekend to do this. Oh, you did? Oh no, girl. Why didn't you just pull out ChatGPT? Or why didn't you just do this or do that or whatever it might be? And all of a sudden you're like, man, because that person had enough boundaries or had enough maybe support to know that this is all that was needed. So I just want us to keep that in mind because sometimes these practices show up in ways that actually cause us to burn out. Like, could you imagine that if for every 2 hours that person put in, I had to put in an additional 8? How would that not burn me out? Right? How would that not burn you out? And so we want to make sure that we're interrupting these practices because these practices are not leading you to being a high performer. They're not leading you to have and enjoy your workplace. And they're definitely not supporting your team because, especially if you're a leader, if you're operating at high heat, don't you know you're giving off high heat to your team? It's very rare that I know people that are high heat operators that don't also burn and scorch those around them. And so I want to make sure that, again, when we're talking about high heat and low heat, this is not complacency. This is not someone that is not full of care and clarity and structure. We are talking about high heat and low heat. We're looking at how you show up in ways that harm and how you show up in ways that rebuild, empower, and that is from a space of care. Now, let me say one more thing about imposter syndrome. Y'all, this is so real. So imposter syndrome will have y'all questioning if you deserve a raise. Imposter syndrome will have you working on a team when everybody on that team either got a raise at different times because they asked for it, and the only thing your supervisor wants you to do is to ask for a raise. Imposter syndrome will have you not accepting gifts or help, right? Because you feel like I have to do it on my own. I need to do it on my own. When we talk about imposter syndrome, what I want y'all to know is a lot of people will avoid negotiating their salary because they feel like, well, I didn't even think I was going to get the job. I didn't even know that you wanted me. I didn't even feel like I deserved to be here. Are you kidding? Your best time to negotiate your salary is when you get that offer. When they come back and they say 10,000, you need to be like, I can do it for 15. or 20, whatever your number you pick, and y'all need to have that negotiation. But when you don't feel that you deserve to be there, even though all the accolades say that you do, y'all gonna be like, okay, no problem, thank you. Right? Y'all know I like my stories. So here's a story time. And I went ahead and I put this on my blog on the Tumble Dry Low account, but I want to kind of surface this and tell y'all about this. So I had a supervisor, and it was my first job out of grad school. And do y'all know that that person called me and now, and they said, hey Monique, I just want to let you know that the committee really loved you. Blah 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 blah. This is what they said. They said we want to offer you this role for X Y Z. Do y'all know that I said yes? Like they couldn't even finish their sentence. I was like, I accept. I literally said, I accept. So much so that they paused and they said, okay, so wait. So I think you're saying is that you would like to negotiate more? I said, no, I said, I accept. So I spoke louder, y'all, because I happened to be at one of my friends' track or softball events. Because I remember being outdoor when I was getting this, right? And they said it again. They said, do you mean to say that you would like to negotiate for a higher salary? So y'all know me, okay? This is the ADHD side coming out, but y'all know me. And also when I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm talking so fast that no one understands me. So let me slow it down. I said, no, I'd like to say that I accept the offer that you just made. Y'all listen, by the third time, this man has said, he repeated himself even slower. And I finally understood that he was trying to help me, but couldn't fully say, I'm trying to help you. So y'all know what I did? I finally repeated back what he said to me. And I said, thank you for the offer. I would like to negotiate for a higher salary, right? With a level of confusion. That's how I said it. He said, okay, well, we would be willing to offer you this. So this man, first of all, I hope y'all caught that. Okay. So this man, not knowing me from Adam, right? Obviously, I interviewed with him and the team. I think they like me. But y'all, this man coached me, and shout out to Chris if you're listening to this, or if y'all know Chris. But this man coached me on how to negotiate. But to be really honest, this is a job that I didn't even know I was qualified for. And the first job that I had right out of college, right out of grad school, was working for the Kenya Educational Enrichment Program, or working in the Office of Multicultural Affairs in Ohio. And y'all, I love that job, and I love my supervisor. I had the same one for all 4 years, and I felt supported the whole way through. But one thing I want to tell y'all is that that job was actually what I consider to be the epitome of jobs. And background, I went to a school in the Midwest, and at this point, you're probably gonna figure it out. But I'm just gonna say, I went to IU Bloomington, and I was a part of the groups program. And G is for the generating minds. R is for the recognition of our kind. Okay, so the point is that if you are a groups baby and you were there during those generations, you know the song, because there's a whole song that is like, oh, represents opportunity, you understanding and unity. P, profound is our personality. Again, I said I can't really sing or dance, so there's some kind of issues with how I'm saying it. But overall, we always end with groups is what we are and what we will continue to be. Now, listen, the groups program, y'all, really saved me. And anyways, that program was ran by Dr. Janice Wiggins. And y'all, I love that woman. Like, she was an older Black woman, beautiful woman, just always just full of love. And that program transformed my life. It was a program that specifically targeted first generation college students. I think it also targeted low income students. But in that program, y'all, I felt seen, I felt heard, I felt valued. And I loved it so much that I said that and that was part of the reason that I decided to even go and get my master's in higher education, because I said, I want to become a Dr. Wiggins. I wanted to become a Dr. Wiggins. And I wanted to give back in that way, because I thought that that program gave me so much. And so when I had got the call, right? So fast forward 2 years of grad school. Now I'm at the point where I'm applying for all these jobs. I think I'm dope. I had a dope grad program, I have all this experience, very hands on. And so when that man offered me the role, even though I was the best person that interviewed, according to what they said, and I thought I was okay, but I was all of these things. I had all this experience that I felt very confident and strong in. I still couldn't believe that they were offering me a job, right? And it also was out of state, and they also paid for me to come interview, all this stuff that I just could not believe, because I didn't think I deserved to be treated that way, and I had never been treated that way. as a result of me not feeling like I deserved it, I was willing to just accept anything. Like literally, I was like, I accept. This man was willing to break it down so that he could advocate for me, right? So because groups was the program that I loved, because I had landed a role that I thought I had to be, because if you knew Dr. Wiggins back when I knew her, again, I went to IU around 2006 or 2010. She was an older Black woman, and so I thought I had to be more established before I would even earn the privilege of working in a program like she did. Do y'all know that that was my first job out of grad school, where I was hired to work specifically with first generation college students and low income students. Now, I was there to do more than just that. That's all I saw in the job description. Now, there was a lot of other stuff to do, but those were like my heart, right? And I was so grateful. And so I couldn't believe that I had found a job like that as my first shot. So much so that I was undermining myself, about to take thousands of dollars less at the salary. And I luckily had someone that was like, okay, this woman needs some support. This woman needs some coaching. Um, when I looked back at how I was operating, I can see now where imposter syndrome showed up, right? It was me turning down, even negotiating a salary, where the hiring manager was coming to the table ready to give me anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 more, and had approval to do so. I was willing to say, "This is good. Let's go." So I want y'all to be able to understand why I'm saying we have to interrupt and reduce that high heat practice of succumbing to imposter syndrome, because it'll have you out here in these streets looking silly, right? It'll have you out here in these streets being the best and top performer, making the least in your role or department because you're afraid to ask for a raise, or you're afraid to say, here's what my terms are. And so even if they come back and say no or whatever, I would ask again, number one, because there some people are actually trained to say no. So it's almost like when you're selling something, they say, salespeople will ask you 3 times. Y'all, ask 3 times. Don't just ask once. Ask 3 times to see if the needle will move, right? Monique, today, okay, your work bestie today is notorious for asking 3 times, because I have learned that sometimes people say no the first time because it's unfamiliar to their ears, or unfamiliar to how they know how to do things. Now, by the third time, y'all, I'm done. I'm letting it go. And I've usually moved on to something else, aka I'm applying for other jobs, aka I'm looking for other opportunities to get what I actually want, even if it's not directly through you. But again, that's that middle child coming out. It's also that first year professional who learns and knows how to be resilient. The part around imposter syndrome and this other piece around survivor's guilt is survivor's guilt, y'all, is this emotional burden of succeeding. Do y'all know that growing up and in schools, I noticed that even though I have ADHD, and even though it was diagnosed recently, I was upset as an adult that I was like, why didn't anybody diagnose me earlier so that I could learn better executive functioning from the experts, as opposed to having to figure out workarounds myself? But the other part of that, even though I was sort of looking back with some level of regret, I also looked back and said, wow, despite having ADHD and navigating all these things, I actually did pretty okay in school. And I actually, as I started to perform better, and what I realized is that I was taught, or I had learned how not to be disruptive in the wrong way. And so I had learned to navigate the classroom and the school space in ways that served me. And I learned how to get things done quickly so that I can then go be distracted. I mean, yeah, I was a person in second grade doing times tables and finishing the first in the class and make sure they were actually done really well so that I can get the gummy bear that the teacher had wait ready for me, or so that I could go in the back and play, because my mind was not focused on sitting down and being still. I also noticed that when I was in high school, that there were friends who I still love dearly from back home, that even though they were getting in trouble with the principal and they were getting these red slips and all these things, I didn't understand why, because these were like my friends. There was a separation happening within our experiences, where people were being labeled as not good or bad or whatever you want to call it. And where my journey was being separate, y'all, I felt bad. And I felt upset because, as I told you, my town was predominantly white and Black. And I noticed that as the same for me and my sister, who's like a year apart, the classrooms that we were in had less and less Black people. right? And or the statuses that we would reach, top in the class, this honor roll, that honor roll, had less and less Black people, even though my neighborhood was predominantly Black. And so those are some things I just want to kind of pull out, because my survivor's guilt has been happening since I was a child. And then when I went to college, it also continued, right? I went to college and I happened to be the first to go. Basically, although I'm a middle child, I was the first in my family to go to college. And that created a dynamic because I was always able to ask my older sisters about their experience and how to navigate things, particularly one that I'm really close to that's in terms of age. She was able to guide me always. And then I found myself at the front and I didn't know how to navigate that, right? And so when you are a first gen professional, you can feel a lot like um, out of place. And so you can feel guilty and you can start operating in ways that cause you harm. So one of the things that I felt like was relevant to me, y'all, is I started doing things like trying to be the fixer, right? Trying to help everybody because I want everybody to come along. And while that's a great practice, when you're still figuring your stuff out, you got to figure out when to help, when to fix, and when to not. I would sabotage my growth. People would offer me opportunities to go places or to study here, to try that. And I say, no, no, thank you. I want to be with my friends, or that's okay. I would decline opportunities. So I want us to be mindful about what that experience is like and how you can sometimes sabotage yourself from the guilt of being separate, of being the first. And all your family and friends are doing, y'all, is rooting y'all on. Like I go home all the time. They're like, hey, Monique. And they root me on and I root them on. And just because our journeys look different doesn't mean anything. But somehow I was like in my journey and not progressing the way I want to be. I felt in some way that I didn't want them to think that I thought I was better than them because I in no means thought or felt that way. But I also wanted to make sure that I kept myself grounded and like those are still my people, my family. Because yes, there is that idea that sometimes when people start to do things that you haven't done, or when you show up in spaces that maybe they haven't been, some people get in spaces and their high heat comes up and they start treating you as less than or other than. And the Monique LaShawn I know, the Monique LaShawn I am, the way that my mom raised me and just what I deeply believe in my core, that'll never happen, which is why I think I found so much success in the workplace because I don't care where you are in terms of the role you do at the particular job place you work at. I don't care how old or young you are. I'm going to treat you with a level of care and respect that I was always taught to give, which is everybody. I'm going to see your humanity. I'm going to see you. I'm going to show up for you. Right? You could be the president, you could be the janitor, you could be the landscaper, you could be whoever, you could be a contractor, a vendor. You're going to get that same treatment, which is who are you? How are you? How can I support you? How can I serve you? What do you need? Okay. I don't do hierarchies. Right. And maybe in some ways that has come to bite me. I will definitely respect folks in terms of deference. Like I'm not going to overstep certain things, but you don't just get a pass because of a title you hold, right? Nor do you get extra attention because of a title you hold. And I think that that has served me. And I just want to remind y'all that when we think about this idea of survivor's guilt, when you're able to overcome that practice, you're able to then use the skills that you learn to survive to actually help other people, right? And so that's what there's this woman that I did an interview at the Danaher Corporation a couple years ago. It was a Black woman. Again, I just happened to be being blessed by being around folks that look like me, and I could see mirrors in those people, right? Reflections of myself, and also windows in terms of aspirational parts of them that I would love to embody. But she said she spent a lot of time in the interview process, and even though I didn't get the role, she poured so much into me from that call that I just say, how can I, give this back or pay it back? I don't ever just want to take in so much knowledge without returning it. And she said, just send the elevator back down. She said, when you get to the top, send the elevator back down. And y'all, I'm telling you, since my time in groups, since my time in back home in Muncie, that's what I do. I want to send the elevator back down. And because sometimes you can't take everybody up with you, sometimes you can, but other times you have to go first and then send it back down. And so as a first gen college student, that's what I think my journey is about. And maybe the same with yours, right? If you're a first gen professional, sometimes you have to be the first to embark on that journey. But y'all better make sure that when you're getting there, that you're sending that elevator back down in any way that you can. If I learned something, we're not gatekeeping. I'm going to show somebody else how I did because I want them to be better. If I made it to the top, I'm going to make sure you have the blueprint on how to get to the top. Pause. Shameless plug. We are having an event. Is we meaning Z Crown Consulting and Tumble Dry Low on July 29th for any leader or manager who is trying to figure out how they design their strategic plan. So when I talk about blueprints, the name of that is Strategic Planning for Managers, the blueprint. check that out. You can find it on Eventbrite or any of our pages, of course, links in bios, or go to tumbledryload.com or go to zcrownconsulting.com and look at our events tab, and it will be there. What I want to point out with each of these three high heat practices, whether you are someone that is was previously or are working through being succumbed to imposter syndrome, whether you are someone that are repeating the high heat practices that you've observed or experienced from other leaders, whether you are someone who is navigating how not to be overwhelmed by the emotional part of being the survivor, the only, the first, the one and, right? If that is your journey, I need y'all to identify it and I need y'all to disrupt it. And the reason I need to disrupt it, interrupt it, whatever you want to call it, is because that is going to prevent you from being able to achieve even more, right? To be able to achieve your greatest accomplishments. Y'all already have been doing dope stuff, right? If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, yes, girl, this is it, you're probably one of my reformed high heat managers, or perhaps you're already somebody that said, Monique, I've always been a low heat manager. Then thank you for being there. Keep being that way. Most of the times, you're going to be able to take this, y'all, and improve it, iterate it, however you want to call it for someone else. I want y'all to be able to do more great things, right? You deserve to be here. You earned the right to be here in whatever workplace you are in, whether it's the one you built yourself, right? Or whether it's one that you brought your greatness to. And so we want to make sure that as we grow and improve, that we are making sure that we're leading from a space of kindness and care and clarity. Because when we do that, y'all, each time we do that, and especially when we do it with intentionality, we send that elevator back down. I know I'm referring to workplaces as dryers, but I also like to play with the, washer metaphor. And so one of the things that I want to point out is when it comes to that phrase, get it in the mud, or I got it from the mud, y'all, we need rinse cycles. So when I talk about this idea of the rinse cycle, I want to put this out because when I would go out and play in the mud and the dirt, I would come back in and my grandmother would say, hey, take your shoes off, go straight to that bathroom and wash your hands or wash your feet or any of that stuff. And if I was really getting in there, to say, take a shower. Okay. Even though it sounds great to say, I got it out the mud or all of those things, y'all, mud needs to be rinsed off. Okay. And so some things have to go into the spin cycle just for the sake of rinsing it off so that you become refined and come out your best self. I want to make sure that we're being thoughtful that anytime that mud is there, when mud dries, y'all, it becomes hard like clay, right? And we want to make sure that we're not creating structures and systems that are so rigid and so firm like hard mud that it's not leaving room for the beautiful things to spring out of it, right? We want to make sure that we're not creating such challenge that those beautiful roses have to be the only one rose out of an entire bush that survived and made it through the concrete. And so if you are a leader who has team members, if you're a leader that have direct reports, can y'all get it together for them? I mean, this is a message from my work besties. It is from them and it is a message to you. If you are not a work bestie that happens to be a leader, I need you leaders, right? And I'm going to call you a leader because this is really a call in. So I'm believing that you're not operating like a boss. I'm believing that you're not operating from a very high heat perspective. I'm going to call you a leader because I know that you are a leader because you are influencing people. And whether you have a title or not, you're a leader. I'm also going to call you a leader because even if you were in the past, meaning before this podcast, operating with high heat strategies or high heat practices, you've decided today that I want to be better, right? And you decided that I no longer want to have those high heat practices. And so now I want to speak to you. I want to speak to you in the space that I believe you're going to be in, which is from a leadership perspective. Because when we are leading, that means that we allow others to be in front of us and that we can empower and propel them, right? When we say leader, it don't always mean that y'all follow me. It means that you need to create the right structures and systems for them. And if you are a first gen professional, y'all, you are a leader. And most times you are the leader who gets to trailblaze, who gets to set the path the way that it should be set. I want you to be a leader that doesn't just hustle, right? But I want you to be a leader that actually knows how to heal. And I want you to be a leader that has learned better ways of operating and showing up for yourself and for others that is not from a high heat practice. Okay. I don't want you to be someone that's like, well, I had a manager that was like, I had to be here at like 7:59 because 8 o'clock is late. And I had a manager that would never let me take a sick day, even though I had 22 and I had, or unlimited PTO. And I had a manager that would always ask me, even though they had no right to ask me because legally it's not okay, but they asked me, oh, you want to take vacation where you're going? It's none of your business. It is none of your business where I'm going on my vacation. This could be a staycation. But again, I had, and I'm saying this because I literally had a supervisor that was like, ask me what am I doing for vacation or like why I needed it. And I'm like, wait a second, this is a employee benefit. We all get this. I don't ask you when you go. Why are you asking me where I'm going? Either you approve this day or you don't, right? But let's move forward. I want you to get to a place where you don't seek validation. You can accept it, but don't seek it. Because I need you to know that you are already enough. I need you to know that you already belong. Y'all belong in my heart, right? When I call you work bestie, that is me saying, like, I'm here for you. I'm riding for you. I got your back. Like, what do you need? How can I support you? It's me saying that your story is not too far different from mine and hers and theirs and his. And all I want you to know is that you deserve better, especially when you desire better, right? Because sometimes we think that we deserve better when someone says, "Oh, you did a good job." No, nope. I did my best. Whether you thought it was a good job or not, I did my best, and I deserve rest after that. We have a 5-day work week. I've been working 6 of the 7 days of the week, and yet you want me to show up again? No. How about I take a break? I deserve a break because I put hard effort in. Now, whether that supervisor validates that effort and says, oh, that was great, that was perfect, I don't really care. The work has been done, the labor has been put in. It is time for rest. As they would say, if it's your laundry, it's time to fold it up. Okay. But it's important to me to kind of introduce this to y'all because y'all know I like data, y'all know I like theories, and I know a lot of y'all like practical tips. And so I want to give you some information around how others navigate workplaces. And sometimes honestly, maybe maybe your employers are listening in, maybe those dryers are listening in, they need to hear this. So here's some fun facts. So according to Gallup, 57% of employees quit because of their manager. Well, why does that matter? Because if you are operating as a high heat manager, if you are not reformed or in recovery, if you are the person that is causing the harm in the dryers, you're also causing your good people to leave. And y'all need to know that most people are not leaving because of a job and like, oh, I didn't like the duties I was having. No, it's because of a manager. And I need to make sure that as my work besties, because y'all listening in, so all of y'all are my work besties. I need to make sure that you are not operating in harm and causing harm. Because if 57% of employees are leaving because of their manager, please don't let it be you. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT as it's most often known, their Sloan School of Management found that culture is 10 times more predictive of attrition than compensation. In other words, I don't care what you're paying me. If this climate is not right, if this office is not right, if this team is hostile, if these leaders are high heat leaders and they don't see my value and my virtue and they don't treat me as the beautiful, delicate rose that I am, I will say deuces. Now, y'all, I'm someone that literally I left a 6-figure job, not because they said we want you to leave, not because they asked me to leave, not because I wasn't performing, but because I couldn't take it anymore. I felt like I was being not cared for. We'll just say that. And I decided that there has to be something better than this. And I don't care how much you pay me, my sanity was more than my paycheck. And when you get to a point where your sanity becomes more than your paycheck, when you get to a point where you realize that your value is more than any number that they can put in your account and every 2 weeks or every month, whenever y'all are paid, y'all, it changes the game. And I had such a level of clarity and also peace that I decided I can't stay here. I have to go because if I stay here in this environment, I'm going to show up in ways that aren't my best. And I'm going to show out in ways that don't reflect who I am. And so rather than stay and deal with, I left. And don't get it twisted. It was some rough days. It was a lot of rough days because I was used to getting them coins, right? Getting certain things in, and I was used to producing. And more than anything, y'all, I missed my work besties. I missed the people that poured into me that I could have lunch with, that I could pass on campus. I miss my students. I miss being able to be in connection and community with people. Listen, as an extrovert, right? As a high performing extrovert, I love being in community with people. And so part of the pod, if you will, is my way of reconnecting and growing my community, right? Part of Tumble Dry Village is growing the community. So if you want to check out Tumble Dry Village and be a part of my virtual community, right? We're going to slowly scale up to start having in-person events. Y'all can join me, right? Check out tumbledrylow.com and you can be a part of that community. But again, I wanted to create a community of care. Companies that prioritize employee experience outperform those that don't by 2 times in revenue. Y'all hear what I'm saying? What I'm pretty much saying is companies are saying, I was getting to the money. Everybody mad. Now, again, most folks know that from Beyonce, but that was originally an OT Genesis song. And so, as I told you, I like my trap music. So, what I loved about this is folks was like, Monique, it's not about getting to the money. It's not about getting to the money. I mean, we're going to get to it, but that's not what it's about. It's about my humanity. It's about my dignity. It's about the fact that I know I deserve and I desire better treatment and better care from my supervisors and my teams and my colleagues. And if I'm not getting it, y'all, it's about forget the money. Because before I will chase a dollar, I got to chase myself. And some people are making those decisions every day, y'all. Now, the sad thing, if you happen to be a dryer or a leader, is that before people leave y'all, and this is the part that I want y'all to notice, there are a lot of people that will be quietly quitting. People will be quietly quitting, meaning they're not giving you their all. They're not giving you their best. They are trying to map out their way out. Nobody thrives in harm. You could have made it out. You could have been the one and only. But are you thriving? Did you thrive or did you survive? And so to my first gen besties up in the room right now, I just want to say to y'all, I need you to take care of yourself, to implement better practices. Before we go, I want to make sure that, as you look for areas of success, right? The recap is if you're someone that's like, oh my goodness, Monique, like I might be someone that is operating in 1 or 3 or 2 of those high heat practices. What do I do? I've been repeating high heat harmful practices and I didn't even realize it was. Well, first of all, I need you to do something. This is going to be require a little bit more vulnerability. If you're a person in leadership, meaning you have direct reports, I need you to ask your direct reports, how are they experiencing you? How are they experiencing you? Ask them hard questions. Do you feel that I value you? Or if you're like, oh, I don't want that, that's too open ended. How about you say, reframe it? What can I do to show you that I value you? What can I do to show up better than how I've shown up? Any of those questions are going to allow for and give you some hard truths that hopefully you're strong enough, resilient enough to receive, right? The other things that I want to say when it comes to that is sometimes you don't have to ask the people, you already know that you are that person. So you can just start making the change. But as you start making that change, I hope that it also includes some version of a restorative moment where you're actually able to go and you're able to also seek accountability. And you're able to say, hey, I caused you this level of harm and I'm so sorry. Or I was operating this way and I want to acknowledge that and I apologize and I'm going to work on that moving forward. Right? Because when we're aware that we created or we're operating in harmful high heat practices, please don't just let it go. Because what you don't realize is that the one thing that you need to be doing along the way is rebuilding and creating trust. And for me, one of the greatest tools, one of the greatest, easiest things to do to rebuild trust is by somebody taking accountability and acknowledging that they are aware of how they're showing up. One of the worst things you can do is to operate in harm and not even know that you have been harmful and are still being harmful. So that awareness and making clear that awareness is a great tip. You can also start doing team retreats, right? Make sure that when you have your business review meetings or your quarterly meetings that you are having what I call lemon squeeze times and you're in your small groups and people that work directly with you and you're able to unpack some of that together and ask for better behavior and also say what are the behaviors that are working well, which ones can I continue? Because please know that it's not all bad. Now, if it's all bad, now y'all gonna talk to me directly, okay? But let's move forward. The other thing is in terms of that survivor's guilt, you're gonna have to constantly, regularly work on. And I'm speaking for myself. This is an ongoing battle because I experienced this in the workplace, especially as I started to get promoted, y'all. I got promoted one time for just really churning out a lot and being consistent as a leader. I didn't want a public shout out. In our workplace, they used to do public shout out and take some ongoing work, particularly in that area. But the other part that I want to point out is do some reflective work. Start challenging those limiting beliefs in your mind, right? That make you feel like that, man, I must be wrong because I advanced or I made it and they didn't. Honey, you can always, as I learned from a dear colleague, send the elevator back down. You can always do more. I had did an informational interview one time with a Nike exec, and y'all that men did not know me from Adam, right? He took the time, and I requested a 15-minute informational interview on LinkedIn. That was a couple years ago. He took the time to not only spend more than 30 minutes with me, y'all. He said, let's set up another meeting. And in that meeting, he said, I'm also going to connect you to a colleague who does this work, who works also for Nike. Do y'all know that like, again, stranger, men don't know me from Adam, he sent the elevator back down. Top exec at Nike doing amazing things. I was so honored to just like talk to him. I was inspired by him. And I was also so grateful for his time because I know he had lots of things to do besides talk to me. And I continue to be blessed, y'all, by different folks that I've met along my journey, right? Who have come into my life. And even when I go dark, as I call it, I sort of disappear, they still pour into me. They still love me. They still send me love from a distance. I got one friend that makes sure that for every birthday, shout out Barb, will always send me birthday cards. Like when she found out I started my new business, she will always send a card. Like what I'm trying to say is, even if you find yourself in a position feeling like, man, I left a community, or man, I left this workplace, or y'all can always bring people with you. Okay. And you can always continue to try to show up the best that you know how. And so when it comes to that third one about succumbing to imposter syndrome, y'all just got to remember who you are. You have to remember who you are. You have to know that you are so talented and so amazing and so awesome, and that you earned every stripe. And that when you get to that role, you deserve to be there. And also, when you get there, make sure that you show the people around you why you deserve to be there by getting to know who they are, by getting to know their needs, by showing up for them, by understanding the culture of that place, by making sure that you lift them up instead of tear them, push them down. We don't come in with a set of directives. We come in with a notebook, a pen, and in the largest ear that we have and or a recorder, and we take notes and we figure out what's working well, what can be changed, how can I support you, right? And that's how you're going to make change. That's how you're going to build credibility. That's how you're going to build a relationship with people. When people want to know, what they want to know is, as I said earlier, do you care about me? If you came in and the first time I met you, you had 10 things you wanted me to do, and then you left, and then you said, oh yeah, I forgot to sort of, how are you? Like, tell me about yourself. I already knew from jump what it was. We were here to handle business. And when we're here to handle business, oh, I will always handle business, but you don't get this personal in this moment. I'm not going to give you that. But when you come in and you want to get to know me and just kind of who I am and how I tick, why I tick, oh, I not only will handle business, I'm going to make sure that I show up my best. Because as we know, when I feel seen and valued and understood and heard, oh, I'm a performer. And I don't just mean on the stage. Okay, I'm going to be making sure that I support and do everything that's needed, from client support to colleague support to you name it, community support, because I love working with people and for people who get it. And so we want to make sure, whether you're a first gen professional or a recovering high heat leader, that you create the environment that folks can best survive in. Please don't be the concrete. Please don't be the mud. Folks will still survive you, but they should not have had to. So if you can go to www.tinyurl.com/dryer stories, please, or again, any of the links in the bios that you have, that will allow for me to hear your stories, to surface them, to make sure that I'm speaking directly to you and about the experiences that you've had in the workplace. Some can be those beautiful low heat moments, and some might be those high heat moments. But I want to make sure that I create and cultivate the lessons learned around that. And so I just want to thank y'all so much for your time. And as y'all know, I'm your work bestie, right? And care is a choice, right? It's a setting and it's a choice. And so I care for y'all, and I want y'all to care for those around you. And so with that being said, this has been another laundry day for your leadership. I'll talk to y'all soon.